Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, October 18th. It's about 7:30 p.m. We're having a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It's a public hearing and a general meeting. It's about 7:35 p.m. We're in room 213 doing a meeting virtual and actually kind of sort of hybrid. Jeremy and I are room 213, and the rest of the staff and commission is on GoToMeeting. And the Yankees won tonight, are moving on to the next round of the playoffs. That's why we started the meeting at 7:30. First item on the agenda in the public hearing is continuation of a public hearing regarding coastal site plan review number 146 C's and Charlie, flood stem prevention application number 147 C's and Charlie, DCC Revocable Family Trust, 29 Brush Island Road. It's a proposal to construct an elevated terrace and new replacement pool at the rear of the residence, construct several minor additions to the north side of the residence, modify the front steps, and to perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including burying of a propane tank. The 0.86 plus or minus acres subject property is located on the north side of Brush Island Road at its terminus, approximately 0.626 miles north of its intersection with Nearwater Lane, as shown as Assessor's Map number 56 as lot 15 in the R1 zone. So they get a variance because it's R1, and we're like,
nope, it's an undersized lot. There's already a house on the property. Yeah. The proposal for a pool and some other improvements. You may recall we opened this hearing in July. It was continued into October to allow the applicant to go before the EPC, because although there's no inland wetlands on the subject property, it does border on Holly Pond. So you do have a copy of Rick Talmalley's EPC report dated October 4th. That's in the record. We also referred it to the state of Connecticut DEEP, and they submitted comments dated July 20th. Those are in the record as well on this matter. Because it's on Holly Pond, we referred it to the city of Stamford. They had no comments. So you have in your packet some revised plans and some revised materials. Attorney Wilder Gleason and his team are here to talk a little bit more about the work they're doing to install it. There's already a pool in the backyard. They're going to rip it out and put in a new pool, make some other changes to the house and to the property.
Now, just before we turn over to Wilder, this hearing was open in July, as we said, as Jeremy just said, July 26th. Since then, we have two new commissioners, Amy Barsanti and Mike Netter. So you folks plus others have not received all the old information. It was all posted online. I printed out some copies, but I think we're going to get additional copies in the future. So we'll get to hear everything from Wilder today, and you can look at some of the stuff that's online. So I apologize for that. Fred did send out a link earlier today. If everyone did check their emails and may have seen it or not seen it. But with that said, Wilder Gleason was here. Wilder, your camera's not on if you don't know that.
I know. For some reason, I can't seem to get it on, and I just figure I'll share my screen and go through the presentation. I have Craig Flaherty with me at Redness and Mead, and Chris Pagliaro, the architect, is here to explain things if there's any questions. I don't see Chris at this point, but I assume he's on. He was on earlier. Can I share my screen? Let me see. Let me bring up my presentation. There we go. Okay. So I represent DCC Revocable Trust. This is
Wilder.
Yes.
Are you far away from your mic? Because you sound like you're kind of underwater. You sound very far away.
Is that better?
Not really.
Not really. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Something's wrong with your mic tonight.
I'm going to increase the volume. Is that better?
No.
Nope.
Oh man. Unplug it.
Are you going to turn it over to Craig Flaherty? But now, whether you're calling in now? We need Netter.
No.
Give me a second. I'm texting him.
Can you take cover, Craig?
That's exactly what I asked him. So I probably can. I just want to give him the benefit of the response, but we might as well. And if he is able to jump back on, he's able to jump back on. So
You sound fine, by the way.
good. Fred, actually, if you could allow me to share. I think I have it now coming up. Okay. Everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
So Wilder, Chris, and I are here on behalf of the DCC Revocable Trust, owners of 29 Brush Island Road, here with a coastal site plan application and a flood damage prevention application, which will also include a review of the stormwater management regulations under Section 880. The owners purchased the property in February of this year. The existing structure is 5,600 square feet, 5 bedrooms, and there's an in-ground pool on the edge of Holly Pond. When it was first approved in 1998, oddly enough, it was in the velocity zone, but the 2013 map changes that affected all of the coast of Darien remapped the risk assessment. Most places, the flood zones went up or got more restrictive. In this place, it's one of the few ones where the flood zone got less restrictive. It's now an AE backwater zone, not a velocity zone. But the primary construction of the existing home is effectively elevated on piles with no finished space at the first level and all the living area on the second level. So here's a aerial of 29 Brush Island Road. You see Holly Pond in the upper left. There's kind of a rock revetment on the edge of the property, between the property and Holly Pond. You see the in-ground pool, kind of peanut-shaped now, and the home as it sits at the end of Brush Island Road, which is a private road. So here's a couple of pictures of what it looks like right now. They've been doing some remodeling of the upper floors while we're waiting to get the exterior and addition improvements approved through the land use entitlement process. So this shows you the backyard here on the right, and the general superstructure construction of the house on the left, with those concrete columns coming down to grade, holding up the structure above the flood elevation. This is a quick exhibit again of existing conditions. This will give you a sense of what's hardscape and what is softscape. The first floor is at existing at 17.1, which is well above what is required by zoning, which is 1 feet above the current flood zone of 14. So the first floor is 2 feet above the 1 foot, in fact. The pool is at 8.5 under the existing conditions. So here's the proposed site plan. I'm going to toggle back and forth between these two just so you can kind of hone in on the differences. So we're going to take this pool out and the existing wood deck out. A new pool is going to go in and a new terrace is going to go in. And those will be elevated to relate to the living floor, which of course is up above because of the flood. So you see the new pool, you see the new terrace, and again, these are elevated up to a position where they're relating to the first floor. But now in the back of the house, and I'll toggle back to existing conditions so you can focus on these areas. There's a small addition on the north edge of the house, which is, kind of the pool house, if you will, although it's all one structure. There's a small addition on the east side of the house and a raised mechanical platform because, of course, all the pool equipment has to be above the flood as well. Because of these improvements, we are increasing the building coverage from 15.9% to 19.3%, but that's still compliant with the zoning regulations. And we're meeting all of the required setbacks. I think the last thing to point out in terms of site improvements is in the front here. We're trying to improve the way the stairs look when you're coming into the house. So instead of just kind of a lone staircase going up a flight, it's given this kind of terraced effect, a little grander entrance. So we had the pool, the house, the pool, the terrace needs to be properly structurally designed to withstand the static and hydrodynamic forces associated with the flood. We have a structural engineer on board, noting that they'll be able to do that design, and that'll be confirmed by zoning and building department staff as a part of the building permit. So
Great.
Chris, I don't know if you want to touch on these architecturals as I go through them.
I don't think Chris is with us.
I
He
am.
is.
Can
He
everybody
is,
hear me?
Yeah, okay, great.
Christopher Pagliaro Architects, 320 Post Road, Darien. I had designed the house originally in 2000, so intimately familiar with the history of what's happened here. I think Craig has pretty much tackled the front. We're kind of just putting in terraced in that circular form toward the driveway. Right now, because it was in the velocity zone at the time, it was sort of it looked like a ladder that was going to the front door. So they just wanted to ground it to the earth a little bit. So we have a couple of different terrace levels of some grade around the stair at the front. The proposed, I'll call it an elevated patio, is open below with the exception of the pool area. So the water will flow through under that. It's concrete deck. It'll have a typical paving material, whether it be a granite or a bluestone. The pool is elevated from the grade more than 4 feet, so we don't have to add any pool fencing. We have a compliant pool enclosure just by the structure itself at that area. We're proposing to the page north, I guess it is sort of north anyway, a little cabana area that steps out to that pool patio area. And then if you go off of the master bedroom, it's interesting. The drawings, the previous drawings said that it was the crossed hatch area, which is lower than the just hatched area, is an addition. It's really not an addition. There's a mechanical platform there that we're expanding the closets over. So that exists in footprint. And just to the top of that, we're creating a new elevated mechanical platform that's integrated into the elevated design of the house. So it's not just kind of a platform with posts going down to the ground. The part of the process of getting here with Mr. Talamelli was an assessment of what has happened to the lower level of the house through the stewards of the home since they bought it 20 some odd years ago. They had closed in some of the breakaway walls with some wood framing that's being replaced with block. They had added some heat. When we built this house, we weren't using the foam insulation, so we had a lot of draft in the house, and I guess at some point they built some walls and put some heaters. So we're removing all the non-compliant stuff that's below the first floor, fastening a gas line that they had added. And I think that pretty much sums up the architecture. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
So this is the elevation view of the front and the back of what the completed home will look like.
So that's
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Craig. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page because I didn't look at the plans. I must have missed that. So the pool's technically, 12 feet in the air. The top lip of the pool is 12 feet in the air or something like that.
Not
it's
12
not 12 feet in the air. It's at
like,
elevation 12.
Yeah, it's like
Craig,
6
what's great
feet.
here?
Yeah, I could look at my plans over here. Hold on a second.
The first floor is at elevation 17, and it'll be a step or two down from that, I think.
16.6 terrace.
Yeah. About,
Yeah, but what is grade?
About 7 feet.
What is
That's
grade, so we can answer the question as to how high above grade it is?
Yeah. That's the plan. So that quote unquote shear wall that's on the bottom of A207, yeah, from the grass to the top of the wall. I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page on how high that is.
That's 7 feet.
7 feet.
7 feet.
7 feet.
Got it.
Is
Is there a way to get to the pool equipment or to the base of the pool from underneath, or is that going to be all filled in?
Just these stairs. Well, you'll be able to walk under, kind of walk, not fully walk, but like floodwaters will be able to flow around and under the terrace. But the only way from the backyard up to the pool deck is these stairs over here on the right.
Okay. So those are flood vents on the either end of the pool, on the left side and at the bottom of the stairs?
Yeah, you can kind of see them here and here and there and there, and that'll meet the requirement of 1 square inch of flood vent opening for every square foot of space enclosed behind it.
Can I ask a dumb question along those lines? Can animals get inside those flood vents?
No.
Okay.
They have the way they do them now. They're hinged and they have foam in them, like a rigid foam. So as water starts to lap up against them, the rigid foam floats and they spring open.
Right. So there's smart vents. Is that the proper name?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. So let's see if I can get back out to page level here. Don't try to read that. You have it in the record. Basically, what it's trying to say is what I should have done at the beginning is announce that I'm Craig Flaherty, professional engineer for the record, senior engineer and principal with Redness and Mead. On this project, we've provided land surveying services. We've done the site civil engineering services, so the site design. We've looked at the stormwater. We've provided a drainage statement, and we've also looked at the coastal area management components of the application, given its location in the Comm zone. So in terms of the coastal area management report, we evaluate the existing site. We determine what the existing resources there may be on site or nearby, and we look at the proposed work and the potential for impact of the proposed work on those resources. So the flood zone is the only resource on the site proper. And so, of course, we've got to comply completely with the zoning regulations and the flood zone regulations, which we've articulated already. Additionally, we're adjacent to Holly Pond. Holly Pond is an estuarine embayment. It's fed by the Roten River from the north. It's dammed on its south end, but it has some influence from the tides of Long Island Sound that go over that dam, as most of us know. There is also tidal wetlands that exist off the property, again, in Holly Pond on the opposite side of that stone riprap embankment that kind of is the developed shoreline here. So things we need to be concerned about really are we're not disturbing any of those coastal resources directly. We need to comply with the flood zone regulations, and we need to make sure that both temporarily while the site is disturbed and permanently when complete, that we don't have any deleterious effects on the quality of water in Holly Pond, as that may affect the resource. So we have a temporary plan of sediment erosion controls, which you're used to seeing in most of your applications. That's been certified by our office and provided for the record. And we also have a drainage report that evaluates the increase in hardscape and creates a plan for collecting that water, infiltrating it into the ground, and then ultimately allowing it to overflow during large storm events. So through these mitigative efforts, we can say conclusively that we don't believe we are having any deleterious effect on the resources associated with Holly Pond, and we do believe that we are compliant with Section 880, which is your stormwater management regulation. I suppose the proof of this would be the fact that we have sign off from Darren Ostafine at the Department of Public Works, and we also have approval from EPC. So that's the site.
Greg, I'll deal with the landscaping.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. The landscaping plan we submitted to the EPC, they wanted it. It provides supplemental, it provides for a bunch of landscaping along Holly Pond. There was a planted barrier or buffer between the lawn and Holly Pond that has been diminished. And so we're restoring that, and we're planting a number of trees on the corners near Holly Pond to improve the overall look from Holly Pond. This was something that the EPC required. We're happy to do it. And you should note that Craig's office has submitted the requisite forms. We have a drainage maintenance statement or a plan for that. And we meet all the regs as far as we're concerned in terms of landscaping. You don't need to do it, but we're doing it. If we could go to the last, Greg. We're in the AE flood zone. It used to be VE. It's now AE elevation 14. We will comply with the AE design requirements. We meet all setbacks. There's no damage to neighboring properties. Craig has certified that. There's no change in drainage patterns. We're treating water quality. We're not impacting coastal resources. So we meet all the requirements for the permits that we're seeking here. EPC has instructed its staff to write a resolution of approval, which we expect to receive shortly. And we think we qualify for an approval under the various permits we're seeking.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wilder. Are you guys done? I'm going to open up the questions for the commissioners.
Yes.
Thank you. George Rye, you want to go first? Any questions, sir? You're good? Amy Barsanti is sitting next to George. You want to go next, Amy?
Most of my questions were answered. I had a bunch, but through the presentation, they were answered.
Fantastic. Adam, any questions, sir?
Nope, none for me. Thank you.
And then Jeff Ball, there he is. Jeff Ball's up top. Jeff Ball's giving me a thumbs up. Fantastic. George Riley's just scratching his face. All right, he's good. The only thing I would like to see, it's not required. You have it on file. I just want to get a real copy of the landscaping plan. But if we keep it, because the landscaping plan is dated, I don't know, September 2nd, I think.
We will get that to you.
Okay.
I'll drop 10 copies off tomorrow.
That'd be great. And it's just in black and white, right, Wilder?
Right. It's just black and white. It's a ELS plan. It's quite simple.
Yep. I got it. And also, just for the record, since this thing was open in July, I'm told you re-noticed the neighbors. I think there's the Sikorsm on one side and the Bearsm on the other side.
We did not send additional notices to them because when it was continued to a date and so on. So we're not required to.
Steve,
and frankly, we've been to 2 hearings before the EPC, and no neighbors showed up at those meetings.
Okay.
Steve, I would just say that the meeting was renoticed in the newspaper in the Darien Times regarding the continuation of the public hearing.
Okay. All right. So there wasn't there was not a supplemental mailing.
No, there was a supplemental mailing done by Wilder's office.
Wilder, I'm told that you did do a second mailing. Is Donna doing stuff without telling you?
Apparently.
That's a good thing. We like Donna.
So there you go. It was the 3 neighbors. So it's not, and they're, well, as Wilder said, they're well aware of this. They've been notified twice.
Okay.
Now, Wilder, one clarification on the landscape plan. That's been done in response to comments from the EPC relative to Holly Pond and for the coastal site plan, correct?
Right.
Okay, just want to make clear, because there's no requirement for landscape plans for single-family houses, correct?
Right. That's correct. It
Yeah.
was in response to comments and concerns expressed by the EPC.
Great, but I mean, we all know that this is a very visible property from the other side of the water, so it's nice that you did that. Thank you. Okay,
Dennis, happy to do so.
you're the man. Anything else on this one?
No,
We're good?
I think you were saying keep it open one more week till next Tuesday to allow Wilder to submit the landscaping plan, give the commission time to review
Documents.
documents that were just submitted, and
Is that okay by you, Tyler? I want to keep it open for a week, so, because
That's
some of
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to wait for the EPC to give us an approval. I don't think that's going to happen till early November. But we'd love to.
Wilder, we do have their report, and in my opinion, their report, which is Rick Talinelli's addenda summary report dated October 4th, my belief is that complies with the regulation, the state statute, relative to receiving an EPC report.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So we'll disclose it next week.
On that.
Excellent.
The only two documents that I would like to see in full-size Wilder would be the zoning location survey done by Brennis and Mead. We didn't get a big one of that, and my eyes are going. We did get a full-size plans from Peli Rulo, so I think we're good there. And then the other document, like we already said, was the landscaping plan.
Yeah, that landscaping plan is 11 by 17. I don't have a full big one, but it's legible. Craig, would you be able to get that some copies of the full-size survey to P&Z?
Of course, you'll have it tomorrow.
That'd be great. We'll drop off the landscaping plan tomorrow, and Craig will get you the survey. Okay.
And then the drainage study is online. We can read that. That's fine. It was signed off by Darren. I think we got everything. We can just get those two things. That'd be great. Then we can close it next weekend.
Great.
Is that okay by you, Amy? I mean, I know Mike's not here, but is that okay? We'll make sure you get all the tools of the application. All right, great.
So
Wilder will just need an extension from you through the 25th.
So extended. Granted.
Great. So this hearing will be continued to Tuesday, October 25th. It's likely to be in room 206 of Town Hall.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda then. Thank you, Wilder.
Thank you.
Okay, next one on the agenda, continuation of public hearing regarding landfilling and regrading application number 535 Great Hill 24 LLC at Great Hill Road. Proposal to construct a new addition to the east side of a residence, reconfigure the driveway, and construct retaining walls, new steps, and a walkway at the front of the house, and perform related site development activities, including the regrading of the property, installation of stormwater management. The 0.4 plus or minus acres subject property is located on the south side of Great Hill Road, approximately 680 feet northeast of its intersection with Tokenique Road, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 36 as Lot 12 in the R1/2 zone, residential zone. The hearing opened
September 27th.
September 27th. That was like 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 meetings ago. This is a continuation of the house that's up on the top or next to the top of Great Hill. It is a Great Hill. And there's a house to the left of it, a house to the right of it that are in newer construction. Harry Roachfield was our spokesperson last time for the applicant, and he's here again. In our packets, we got a revised site development plan from the engineer. We got a second copy of proposed site development, stormwater management report. We got a landscaping report from the applicant, and also, what else do we get? What's this other document? Yeah, this is the other drainage report. Is there anything else we're missing on this one that we want to go over?
There were a number of issues brought up at the last public hearing on September 27th by many of the neighboring property owners. So Harry's responses are in his October 12th letter here. In that, he's included a letter from Save-A-Tree, also dated October 12th, as you've acknowledged, the landscaping plan and the site development plan with a revised stormwater management report. Those are responsive to some of the issues that we discussed last time. The question of, can you put in more drainage, either in the front or the back? Can he address the question of how much water a rain barrel holds and what the function of the rain barrel is? Can he look into protecting certain trees? Can he put together a landscaping plan? Harry's going to tell us how he responded to those various items brought up at that last public hearing.
Fantastic. Harry Redfeld, welcome. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Chairman. Evening, Commissioners. My name is Harry Roachville with McCord Engineering, professional engineer, state of Connecticut, representing the applicants. If you bear with me for a minute, I will share my screen and walk you through the changes we've made since the last meeting. All right, let me know when you're with me here.
We're with you, Harry.
All right, sounds good. So I'll just go through it as my letter states, item by item, and we'll address every comment raised at the last meeting. I'm going to start with the stormwater management plan. Per DPW, we were required to do deep tests. We did 2 of them in the front yard, one here, one here. They both confirmed the suitable soil conditions that we encountered in our percolation test. After listening to the neighbors and the history of drainage concerns in the area, we decided to add an extra row of detention galleries to our drainage system just to provide excess storage. Although it wasn't required, as our last report concluded, my client decided it would be best to just add an extra row and as a concession to the neighbors. As part of this revised stormwater management report, we also increased the factor of safety on our infiltration rate from 1.5, which is typical in the town of Darien, to 2.0 to be even more conservative with our calculations. We also relocated the drainage system as far away from the down gradient property as possible. This did 2 things. One, move the infiltration system away from the neighbor, but also allows us to utilize our driveway drain as our overflow mechanism. So now the overflow during extreme storms will overflow out of the driveway drain and get directly to Great Hill Road. If you recall, it was about over here last time, and there was concerns of that overflow leaking over the lawn to the neighbor to the west. So we have utilizing our driveway drain to also be our high level overflow, ensuring that runoff will get to Great Hill Road along our curb line. Another item that was brought up at the last meeting was if we could install a curb along the property line here. After that meeting, I went out there the next day, and there's actually already an asphalt curb that's sort of hidden below the vast arborvitae trees over here. And there's also probably about a 6-inch landscape berm for the roots of those trees. So there's about an 8 to 12-inch berm there already. In my opinion, that's sufficient. I attached a picture of that in my letter. In regards to the rain barrel, I want to reiterate the rain barrel has nothing to do with our drainage analysis. The storage is meaningless. It is simply an amenity to harvest rainwater to water the garden in the back of the property there. A rain barrel is an effective means of maintaining stormwater quality. In the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Control Manual as a way to recycle rainwater. So again, it has no impact on our drainage analysis. It is simply a landscaping amenity. So in summary, as far as stormwater management goes, we enlarged and relocated the underground detention system. And we feel that we have even enhanced our proposed development even more and even further reduced the peak flow rates leaving the property as part of our proposed development. The second item that was brought up was the eastern property line and the retaining wall and buffer over here. So we met with Petro Gardens to discuss the landscaping along this property line. A landscaping plan was provided as part of our latest submittal. And the changes in that plan and our plan are as follows. We moved the retaining wall in about 3 feet. It's about as close as we could get to the addition to still have access with landscaping equipment between the addition and the wall. And that also provides plenty of room to get the screening plantings in there per Petro Gardens plan. I believe they are providing 11 giant green arborvitaes along the property line here And actually, I have their plan, so we can bring that up. So you'll see them right here to recreate that screening buffer. You'll also see they have a variety of other trees and plantings around the property too. So this is a real conceptual design of what they plan to do. I mean, the planting schedule is preliminary. They did include a basic one. As you'll see here, they note sizes and selection may change, but what they have specified is the giant green arborvitae trees here. So I did want to go over that. Also in changes to that eastern side of the property line, if you recall, there was a turnaround here that resulted in this retaining wall coming a little bit further out. We've removed that turnaround as it is ineffective now since we've moved the retaining wall in. So we've also shrunk the distance of the retaining wall as it goes towards Great Hill Road to sort of preserve the grade in this area. And also in our letter, we there was some talk about the 36-inch oak tree here. We provided a 5-page letter from Save a Tree in which they assessed the large oak tree and the construction, and it's their expert opinion that just the construction alone of that foundation would damage the roots so significantly that that tree wouldn't survive, regardless if we propose a retaining wall here or not. So that's a summary of the changes we made. Again, I think we further enhanced our mitigated impacts to the neighborhood with our revised site development plan. I know Wilder is going to speak on this application as well. I have a few extra words for you, but I'll be here for any questions that you have after Wilder goes.
Yeah,
Great. Hold on one second, Wilder.
Yep.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions of Harry before we move on? Go ahead, Amy, turn your mic on.
Yep. I have a couple questions. Is there a curb on the opposite side of Great Hill Road? Because I understand your galleries are now under the drive. The overflow will then water, if they do overflow, it will come onto the drive, this new proposed drive, and then go down out to the street. Is there curbing on the opposite side of Great Hill Road, and what's the topography on the guy immediately opposite this driveway?
There's a curb shown on our plan. I'm not 100% sure if there's one there, but the road is crowned itself. So the runoff will stay on our side of Great Hill Road. You see the contours like this.
Second question, I recall it being asked during our meeting where the street drains were, where the storm drains are on that street. And I think somebody said there was one at the bottom of that hill.
That's right. So we went back out there and looked at that too. Thanks for reminding me. There are 2 properties over. There's a drain right at where Great Hill sort of where that P happens, I guess, at the intersection of Great Hill and Great Hill. There's a drain down there on our side of the road, and we traced those drains. I think there's 3 or 4 more other ones that eventually outlet to Tokenique Road.
Okay.
Just to answer your first question, there is an asphalt curb across the street from the property.
Okay.
The other house across the street is elevated. I was out there again today too.
Okay, good. And then can you please remind me on the new addition, on this proposed addition, the gables, so the gutters, where are the gutters draining to? I know there was a portion of the roof in the back that could not get into the gutter system and get redirected out to the front. Refresh my memory on that.
Sure. Yeah. So there's just one portion of the house that's not being that's not being routed to the system in the front. It's essentially this portion of the house here, where this whole gutter drains to here. This is where it drains now, so we're just maintaining that existing condition. But every other part of the roof is able to be routed around to the detention system.
So all the new runoff is able to be in gutter systems and directed properly to galleries.
That's right. All of the new addition and then half of the existing house, as well as the entirety of the driveway on our property.
Okay. And then the last question I have is for staff, I guess, is there was another, and maybe this is down the road in the presentation with regards to the 2 curb cuts on a property in this zone. Is there anything that prohibits that specifically?
This is a public road, so Department of Public Works would look at it. They would need a curb cut permit. And the curb cut would have to meet the standard in their regulations and their policies, certain distance apart, that the apron can't flare out in front of adjacent property. So any tweaks or details would be worked out with Public Works.
Okay, and that has not been done yet?
Yeah, usually that comes afterwards.
Afterwards, yep.
And it appears in this case that it would likely work, but ultimately it's the decision of Public Works.
Okay,
I'll just
thank you.
add, I'll just add a quick comment to that. Darren Ostafine in his review did take a look at that. The standard is 50 feet between the curb cut openings, and we verified with Darren that it does in fact meet that minimum separation distance. Like Jeremy said, you know, the new driveway or the second driveway would still require a street opening permit from the DPW. And they would verify at that time that it does in fact meet the standards, which we believe it does.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Hey, Weiler, can you turn off your microphone? You keep chiming in. Thank you, sir. Any other commissioners with the questions for you? George, you good? George, give me a thumbs up. Where is Jeff Ball? Jeff Ball is there. He's good. Adam, any questions, sir?
No, looks good. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, great. Did I have any questions? My questions were the landscaping plan we got. We talked a little bit about the Save a Tree thing that went out there, the curves, curb cut. I was pretty good too. Yeah, I think the driveway for 26, which is I'm going to say the one that's to the left. Is that right? Yeah, the one to the left. That driveway is on the opposite side of that guy's house. I think the next person who wanted to speak was Weiler Gleason. Were you going to say something, Weiler?
I just wanted to say that I was engaged by Grace Loud to take a look at this from the legal point of view, and I think she is a woman who's trying to move into this neighborhood. This is her last house she and her husband are likely to be in. She met with the neighbors in advance of and it described what she was doing, although she's under no obligation. I'm sorry?
Just announce something for the record for what you're doing and who you work for.
Weiler Gleason representing Grace Loud, the applicant. So she has tried to work with the neighbors and address their concerns. In my view, she's gone well beyond what the zoning regulations require. She's entitled to remove trees on her property if she wants to. She is choosing to do that, and she's restoring a significant screening. There was protests about the oak. The oak is not going to survive this addition, so it has to come down. And if neighbors are concerned about screening, if they find that what she's proposed is inadequate, they're perfectly capable of installing screening on their own property and taking up their property to provide screening between the two houses. On the downside, it's my understanding that in fact there should be a reduction in the flow in the back. There's not a lot of flow now, and if anything, we're going to be diverting stuff to the front, and only in significant storm events will there be an overflow onto Great Hill Road, which then runs down to the system at the bottom of the hill. So the concerns of the posts should be addressed in this, and they should find, when all is said and done, that there's been a decrease in impact on them. And hopefully the screening that the applicant is proposing, Ms. Slough is proposing, will be fine for the neighbors, the Pettits on the other side. And it's her hope to be a good neighbor to these neighbors. And hopefully some of the concerns, I do want to say this too. that so far the drainage issues are really a subject for expert opinion. And there are two experts that have reviewed this. Harry Rochefeld, our expert, and Darren Ostafine of the Department of Public Works. Both have certified that there's have basically accepted that this plan works, it meets the regulations. There's no evidence otherwise. And the concerns and fears of neighbors about stormwater and drainage are not evidence for you. They're not credible evidence without an expert challenging it. So in terms of drainage, I think we're fine. In terms of the overall, this is a pretty straightforward application, I believe, and I think there's been a lot of concern expressed by neighbors. Hopefully they have been mollified with the significant efforts the applicant has made to address those concerns.
Thank you, sir. Any other commissioner questions? We did all that already. Anything else from Jeremy and Fred before we open it up to the public? Wow, you just turn your microphone off, sir?
I will.
Thank you. Would anybody in the general public like to speak to this application? If you would like to, please turn your camera.
I'd like to speak.
Sure, great. Just give us your name for the record, sir.
Sure. My name is Charles Post. I live at 26 Great Hill Road, the westerly downhill neighbor to the subject property.
Welcome, Mr. Post. Nice to see you again.
Likewise. Appreciate everyone taking the time tonight. So we had a robust discussion of numerous concerns at the last zoning meeting. Mr. Rocheville just reviewed a handful of nominal changes to the plan on behalf of the applicant. However, it is my opinion that he has ignored essentially all of the guidance that the commission provided at the last meeting. So let me just start with the premise of why we are here in the first place, which seems to be omitted by Mr. Gleason and by Mr. Rocheville, which is this application is for a grading that happens within 10 feet of the property boundary. That is not the town standard. They are asking for you all to provide a modification to that guidance, which, as you look at the plan that is on the screen right here, is absolutely required to make this gargantuan house fit onto this property. So in essence, the entire plan here hinges on you all being willing to allow grading to happen right up to the property boundary within a handful of feet. You can see it right there. The easterly retaining wall is, I believe, 3 feet away from the property boundary. This plan, as it currently stands, is not possible without your approval of grading within 10 feet. So let's get the facts on the table here. That's why we're even having this discussion, and neither of the experts who just spoke bothered to even mention that. I'd also say that there is a significant history of water flow from this property and a litany of issues that have happened as a result of that. We also discussed a litany of issues at the last meeting that were not addressed by the revised site plan. I agree with Mr. Gleason. Experts should speak to the water flow. So for him to say that there's not a lot of water flow from this property, I'm just scratching my head. I understand he has a client. I understand he wants to get his client a result. But for the very person who just said that experts should only talk to a subject to have spoken of the very subject as if he was an expert, I think is misleading of the commission. So let me remind the commission of the remediation issues that were reviewed at the last meeting that I don't believe have been addressed here. One, I've already referred to the grading. It's meaningfully within the 10 feet setback of the property. There is no possibility of proceeding with this plan if you don't approve that, right? And Commissioner Bersante asked at the last meeting that the applicant consider alternative plans to be put forth to avoid grading within that 10-foot buffer. And no such alternative has been proposed here. Yes, the retaining wall came in a little bit and there isn't a turnaround, but clearly almost that entire retaining wall is well within that 10-foot buffer. So a simple remediation of this entire issue would be to make that structure smaller, right? Certainly there are structures or alternative plans that presumably would get the Laus, the retirement house that they seek, without having to go within 10 feet, without having to take down the oak tree and the other items I'm about to highlight. But that's not what's been proposed here. Secondly, the landscaping plan. I commend the Laus for putting forward the plan that was highlighted. However, the commission, if I recall correctly, and it's on video, they instructed the applicant to provide a mutually agreeable landscaping plan. So, Mr. Gleason proposed the neighbors doing so on their side of the property. Well, the commission provided alternative guidance in the last meeting, and that there be a mutually agreed replacement. Let's talk about the significant tree. So the commission asked the applicant at the last meeting to consider alternative plans to retain the significant 150-year-old oak tree. They have not, right? They've insisted on a grading plan, a site plan, and a building plan that require grading within 10 feet, and therefore the tree to come down. And yes, there is a memo from Save a Tree that speaks to buffers within the trunk to save the roots to have the stability and the health of the tree. I would simply highlight that if the building plan and if the grading within the buffer was modified, and you don't provide the variance for grading within 10 feet, there's no need to remove this tree. You can clearly see that there's additional width on this plan that's on the screen. It's about 8 feet of addition laterally on the property. Before then, the north to west addition is there. It's about 8 feet itself. There's 7 feet then of buffer between the house and the retaining wall, right? That's 15 feet. If everything was shifted 15 feet to the west of grading, there would be no need for that tree to come down. And so again, this is a significant tree. I've already mentioned in the last meeting, you all have the ability to determine what a significant tree is. It's an undefined term. Section 8 of your zoning regulations make it very clear that you have the ability to preserve a significant tree. So again, if a 150-year-old tree, it's on my sweatshirt here, right? It's the logo for our neighborhood, is not significant, then I'm not sure why you have that in your regulations. And then on the driveway topic, the commission expressed pretty clearly last time significant reservations about 2 driveways, and I made it clear it's 2 driveways of 2 types of materials, 2 curb cuts, but there's no modification to that plan here. In fact, there's been no clarity from the applicant here on why it is that there are 2 driveways of 2 materials on the property. And again, the second driveway entirely hinges on your willingness for there to be grading within 10 feet. So implicitly, the fact that there are 2 driveways is entirely within your purview on whether or not you want to allow there to be grading within 10 feet. And I would say we all clearly see that the town has an incredibly high standard as it relates to the aesthetics throughout the town, which is candidly, one of the main reasons I'm sure we all live here. And so I simply ask you to consider, if this was the house next to yours, right, is this the aesthetic you would want? Would you want 2 driveways, 2 material types, 2 different width curb cuts, and as one of the commissioners highlighted last time, could very well be used for any purpose, right? Is it to park a boat? Is it to rent out to other houses? It's just not clear to me why it's needed in the first place. And again, it's entirely within your purview to allow there to be a second driveway given the grading within 10 feet. And then on grading, I will acknowledge that there is an additional galley, and that is helpful. But yet there is significant drainage issue. And as Commissioner Netter highlighted last time, the existing conditions are not acceptable. Those were his words. And so respectfully to Mr. Gleason, there is significant water flow. There's significant evidence of that. And I would think that this town and this commission would hold a higher standard than let's just not make it worse than the unacceptable conditions that currently exist. So in conclusion, I ask the commission not to approve this modestly revised plan. It makes insufficient modifications to address the issues I've just highlighted. I'm glad to take any questions you might have, and otherwise I'm happy to yield the floor to several of my neighbors who are on the line.
Great, thank you. Just to make sure we're clear, 26 Great Hill Road has a circular driveway with two curb cuts.
It is not. That's 22 Great Hill Road. I live at 26. It's the westerly property. It has one driveway.
The other one's got two curb cuts. It's got a circular driveway?
22 does. It's a contiguous driveway, a U-shaped driveway made of one material type in a U-shaped turnaround. It is not two driveways of two different material types of two different widths that are unconnected. So
I said circular.
not the same thing, but that's not my property. That's my neighbor's property.
Correct. But that is a circular driveway, is what it's called. The other item, relative to the tree, that tree overhangs the other property that's to the north. So if the tree does get damaged by a storm and falls on the other house, we have a problem. Actually, I don't have a problem. The two people that own the 24 and 22 have a problem. They could always come back later and say, your tree overhangs my property, cut it back. That's what I did at my house when the tree overhung my property and they took it down, because it would have, if it got hit or anything happened to it in a storm, it would crush the lady's house next door.
Right, but I think what I'm trying to highlight is if you don't approve the variance for grading within 10 feet,
it's not a
this
variance.
is not an issue.
It's not a variance. You're not applying for a variance.
Doesn't the zoning regulation clearly say that you all must approve grading that happens within 10 feet? So you don't have to approve this.
Correct, but it's not a variance. A variance is different.
Sure. You're right. I may not use the precise terminology. Nonetheless, you need to approve grading within 10 feet.
Correct. We need to prove most everything in town. Okay, so the tree overhangs, which is an issue, for the neighboring property, and the other neighboring property does have a circular driveway with two curb cuts. The other driveway it's not technically being abandoned, but now it's a gravel path that maintains the same curb cut. So it's not deemed a driveway in the way, shape, or form it is. Would anybody else like to speak to this application? You can start speaking or turn on your microphone and camera, and then give us your name for the record, please.
Sure, it's James Pettit. Can you hear me now?
Yep, welcome, sir.
All right, thank you. I am the neighbor directly adjacent at 22 Great Hill, directly to the east. I will try and keep mine relatively short and sweet because we've covered many of these topics ad nauseum already. As we see it, the zoning regulations exist for scenarios like this to understand the desire that people want to maximize their buildable footprint, as well as recognize any potential limitations imposed by zoning or the land itself. We also firmly appreciate if the trees were further inside the property boundary and or no grading were required, we'd have no reason to be heard in the first place. The desire to build as close to our property line, leading to the need for this variance, has already led to the death and removal of a multitude of trees by Save a Tree, which to my family were indeed significant, as evidenced by the privacy, shade, windbreak, and soil retention they afforded us. The most recent landscape rendering obviously left another truly significant 36-inch tree out, which means it must be killed and removed. The already completed removal of healthy and mature firs and hemlocks left a gap in our privacy, shade, soil, and retention, thereby impacting potentially our property and valuation. I will not claim to be an arborist. I won't claim to be an expert on many things that we're covering this evening, but researching the suggested placement of green giants, arborvitae, or anything else similar, most professionals, including my consultation with a certified master gardener familiar with hardiness zone 7, would suggest, quote, if you are planting trees that can grow to approximately 10 feet wide at maturity, Space the center of the tree at least 5 feet from the edge of a driveway. If you want to be prudent, add 2 to 3 feet to that distance and plant 7 to 8 feet away from the driveway. Notably, these trees have extensive root systems that can naturally extend beyond the drip line. These roots can bulge above the surface of the ground and cause damage to concrete pavers or asphalt surfaces. Similarly, structures such as these may have an impact on the health, growth, and viability of trees. It does bear repeating that healthy and mature trees were indeed removed. It also is worth noting that these new trees could be in danger themselves, just given the narrow space they might have between the property line, the retaining wall, and the driveway. Green giants are definitely known for being rather hardy, but there is potential issues when raising them from transplants or saplings. In summary, one of the reasons we moved to the suburbs in the first place was to get away from the concrete, to have more greenery and to more privacy. We chose the home we live in for many reasons, not least of which was the healthy and mature tree line on 3 sides of our property. If this approval and construction proceeds as currently planned, we may lose on concrete, greenery, and privacy as compared to just months ago. I thank you all for your time, consideration, and attention.
Great, thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to speak to this application? Seeing none. Any other questions from commissioners on this one?
Hello?
Hold on. Any other questions from commissioner? We're good?
I just wanted to make a comment. I live here on 2 Great Hill Road. And
Can I have your name, sir? Can I have your name, sir?
Yeah, Thomas Turlo. And I just want to say that I don't have obviously the concerns that my fellow neighbors have as far as drainage and privacy and landscaping and things like that. But, this proposed project does seem to have, it does seem like it's going to change the aesthetic of the neighborhood, which does concern me. I think, we talk about this oak tree and it gives the neighborhood its character, and sort of having 2 driveways of 2 different materials, it just doesn't seem to fit in with the neighborhood. And so I just wanted to chime in and let myself be heard on that point.
Great, thank you, sir. I think this is the smallest house in the neighborhood, so it doesn't fit in the neighborhood as it stands today. Would anybody else like to speak to this application? Nope, I don't see anybody else.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I will.
Can I have your name and address, please?
Yeah, Margaret Conrad, 12 Great Hill Road.
Okay, Mrs. Conrad. Miss Conrad.
So I'm at the bottom of Great Hill, and I have had flooding issues from day one. There is a drain in front of my house and a drain across the street from 11, and every rainstorm I get a waterfall down my front walk, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And as the construction continues in the neighborhood, it's not going to get better, and I'm going to continue to get flooded. And I see this project as, when number 26, prior to the post zoning it, was constructed, I recall there being lawsuits on the people from Tokenique Road because of the flooding issues that caused on them. And I believe number 24 also got sued as well when they took down, it was Lucy at the time, had taken down some large pines in the backyard. So there's going to be a flooding issue on Tokenique Road as well as on Great Hill, and I'm going to continue to get flooded here. And the drains, honestly, Department of Public Works doesn't really do a great job at cleaning them out. I mean, literally, when we get a huge downpour, I'm the crazy person outside with the rake cleaning out the drains to make sure that the water isn't coming down my front walk and into my basement. So I really would like you to rethink this. And I thought there was a 15-foot setback on either side of the property. And it sounds like you guys are, from what I'm hearing, they're allowing 10 feet. I thought that the regulation was 15 feet on either side and 50 feet from the curb.
No, you're correct. It is a 15-foot setback for the improvements for the house.
Right, correct. And, you know, I know it's the smallest house because it's one of the most original houses. They were all tiny little capes when this road was built in 1950. But, you know, and everybody's done additions, myself included. But I'd like you to consider the flooding because I really don't like getting water in my basement. It's not fun.
Yeah,
So,
I hear you. That's why they're putting in three sets of chambers in their front lawn.
right, and I understand the wanting to save the oak, and I can't understand why you can't save the oak because, you know, personally, when I did my addition, I reworked my entire plan so I could save a 200-year-old oak in my front yard. So I am just, you know, I see where everyone's coming from on this, but I would, you know, and again, I don't want them to not improve their house, but I'd like them to not, you know, flood the road and, you know, upset the neighbors.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
You're welcome. Just so we're all on the record that right now there is no flood management or drainage at the property at all, zero. So what they're doing is putting in 3 sets of chambers and a big retention system that will help the flooding, you know, on this property and maybe some of the other properties. The other property that is above them, which is the 22 house, that is the top of the Great Hill. All the water starts there and flows down both ways. Would anybody else like to speak to this application? Seeing none. Harry Roachfeld, you and Wiley Gleason represent the applicant. Anything to close on this? Anything to add before we close? Where'd Harry go?
Sure, thank you. I'm not sure if Walter's going to speak as well, but yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what you just said, Chairman. There's no drainage controls on this property now. Unfortunately, water drains downhill. We're improving our property as much as we can, as much as we see fit for this proposed development. We're enhancing the existing additions, the stormwater management system by changing the driveway over here to gravel, which we don't even get credit for, and also removing about 2,000 square feet of driveway in the back of the property and replacing with garden, which we also don't get credit for. As I mentioned, we enlarged the size of the detention system. We were more conservative with our infiltration rates in the drainage analysis, and we enhanced the buffer on the.
Hold on one second, Harry. Fred, can you turn off Post and Weiler's microphone? Great, thanks. Go ahead, Harry. I'm sorry.
And where I left off, and we enhanced the eastern property line buffer as much as we could by shrinking the retaining wall, moving it further to our property, and providing a landscape plan by a certified landscape professional. So we stand behind all of our submissions that we made. I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but again, I think this proposed development will end up being an enhancement to the neighborhood.
Great,
and as you mentioned, it is by far the smallest house in the neighborhood. So I think it would, by aesthetic value, it will fit in much more now than it does.
Great, thank you, sir. Before we read it, Wiley, you good? Your microphone's off and your thing's off. I guess Wiley's good. Okay, with that said, we heard from the neighbors, we heard from the applicant, we heard from all the experts. Wiley, you're good, right? You keep turning your microphone on and off.
I want to just sum up because I think the standard is there going to be any negative impact on the neighbors as a result of the grading that we're doing within 15 feet? And while there are great concerns expressed by the neighbors, there's no impacts that they can point to. And in fact, our expert has said there are none. So, you know, as to the grading, we are doing more than is required. The storage is a greater, you know, the extra chamber gives you another margin of safety. That's going to reduce the amount of flow going down Great Hill Road, I suspect. Harry, is that correct? Can you just confirm that?
That's correct. And I'd like to reiterate, we're not doing any grading atop the retaining wall either. The existing grade is being maintained atop the retaining wall.
So the water that flows from the petted house is still going to flow down to this house, and then it'll be directed into the drainage system. And eventually, if there's a huge storm, it gets directed into Great Hill Road. That is an improvement of what's there now. And as Harry pointed out, the driveway on the post side is being converted to lawn in the back. That's going to be an improvement. And we're going to keep the gravel. It's going to be converted to gravel, which will hopefully impede the water flow somewhat from what seems to be broken macadam right now. And drainage wise, I think we are doing more than enough. We've got a landscape plan that's great. And I understand concerns about privacy, but it's not up to the applicant to provide privacy to the neighbors. It's up to the neighbors to provide privacy that they want on their property if whatever we propose is insufficient. You can't buy a house and expect that plants on the neighbor's property are going to remain to provide you with the privacy that you want. That's not the way the regulations work. And so the applicant has done, I think, a very good faith job. And in terms of the house, this is a modest addition. The tree itself has some issues. There's some safety concerns that go with it. And she's chosen to put this modest addition on, which will bring it up to still the smallest house in the neighborhood. And they've made significant changes in the driveway arrangement. They've moved this retaining wall further away. And this is a good plan, and it should be approved. I think we meet the regulations and the spirit and intent of them. And hopefully when all is said and done, the neighbors will realize that this really has been an improvement to the drainage situation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Sure, I want to ask Harry a quick question. Hey, Harry, is there a drain at the end of the driveway that's above the cul-de-sacs? Wow, they gotta shut your microphone off. There you go. So if the water goes, is there a drain is there a like a yard drain in the middle of the driveway?
There's a drain right here, not in the middle. That's where our test hole was. This rectangle is where our test hole was done.
Okay.
There's only one driveway drain right here.
So when the water flows from the top of the Great Hill, which is 22 Great Hill Road, down the street, it goes into that drain that's blocked by the Belgian block curb?
It's not going to get into to our system. Our driveway is going to slope down to Great Hill, so any runoff from further up grading is going to stay on Great Hill as it does now.
It's going to stay on the road. Got
right.
it. Okay, so everything that's because we're the second from the top. 22 is the top of the hill. Okay.
Right.
So there is a drain. The answer to the question is there is a drain in the driveway, which is right there. But that's
right.
Mostly...
We're capturing as much driveway on our property as possible. You see our drain is located right in front of the property line.
Right okay. There. And you're not changing the grade that's between the curb cut of the driveway and the property line?
Between the retaining wall and the property line.
No, see the retaining wall ends?
Yep.
I'm going in front of the retaining wall.
Very minor, just to be able to get the driveway into existing grade on Great Hill. Probably a 6-inch cut or so.
Right, that's what I thought. So 6-inch cut, it really doesn't come into effect.
Very minor grading. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Amy, you had a question?
Yeah, my question was, there's been a lot of discussion about changing grade within the 10-foot setback. The way I'm looking at the display you have here, the setback line where the proposed addition kind of goes into, it looks like the top corner there, the buildable envelope, which is 15 feet off the line. So yep. If I'm eyeballing that retaining wall, that's probably at that point 7 feet.
That's
That
plus or
retaining
minus. That's about right. I believe the landscape plan might have a.
The
Okay.
landscape, yeah, the landscape plan shows that it's 7 feet. The retaining wall is 7 feet from the house.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
and
7
then
feet
as
from
it
the
goes
house.
further in front of the house, it angles towards the line, so it's probably 4 or 5 feet at that point at the tip.
It's 5 feet at the closest, if you see here
That's
on
at
the
the
landscape
closest.
plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is this: if you were to comply and put it totally, like, take that edge and moved it in 5 feet, and then you would you would there be any impact, significant impact, a positive impact on drainage?
So if you shorten the wall,
If you're trying to make this plan compliant in that they're not in front of us for a 10-foot grading request.
Yeah, I mean, the retaining wall really has no impact on drainage.
Amy, I just want to make it clear. The regulation 850 prohibits any regrading within 15 feet of a property line without your approval. So you have jurisdiction up to 15 feet. It's not 10, as Mr. Post indicated. So, but in order to regulate it, you have to find what we're proposing is going to have a negative impact on neighbors. What we're proposing can't possibly have a negative drainage impact on the Pettit property. Their property drains onto ours.
correct.
Sir, we don't have
Whoa,
any
whoa,
grading.
whoa. The applicant's talking. Well, if you want to speak again, we can bring it back. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So the Pettit property drains onto the applicant's property.
Well, we don't know if it drains, but it's above grade.
But it flows. It flows. There's a sheet flow from their property onto ours. They're higher, and some of the water flow goes into Great Hill Road, but a bunch of it comes onto our property. So there's no change in that with the plan that we're proposing. And I just wanted to just clarify for you, Amy, because it's 15 feet. But in order to regulate it, you really have to find that we're creating a negative impact on a neighbor. And we can't possibly be creating an impact on Pettit. And because our water is now going into the street after we've detained, what is it, a 50-year storm, Harry, on site, 50?
That's right. Peak flow decrease up to a 50-year storm, and I don't think I don't have it exactly in front of me, but I don't think we see an overflow from that detention system to 25-year storm. I can confirm.
Anyway, without any increase, so there's a decrease in runoff, no increase in runoff in a 50-year storm. So and because of the detention, there's going to be an improvement in this situation. That's all.
The water's going to get into the driveway and go into this driveway drain that Harry just stowed. So the water would have to jump off over the cobblestone curb on the west side of the driveway to even come close to getting down to 26 Post Road, 26, house number 26.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just for the commission's edification on this landfilling regrading permit, there's several things that'll trigger that landfilling regrading permit, which is really what you're considering as a commission tonight. One is, as Wilder mentioned, any grading work within 15 feet of a property line. Second, changing the grade anywhere on the property by more than 6 inches. 3, bringing in more than 40 cubic yards of material or excavating 40 cubic yards of material from the site. So in this particular case, there is regrading of the property with the retaining wall and change in grade close to the Pettit property within 15 feet of the property line. Wilder's correct that the standard is The commission must find that there is no impact to adjoining property owners as a result of that grading within 15 feet, changing the grade by more than 6 inches, or bringing in fill or exporting fill from the site.
Let me add one other thing, if I can. There is an exception for excavation for a house foundation. So the foundation that's being excavated is not considered part of the 40 cubic yards. And also there's an exception within 25 feet of that foundation, I believe, in that 850 regulation. So it's 40 feet that's outside of the building footprint, 40 cubic yards. And I don't think we have that. I don't think we're doing 50. Harry, you're the expert here. Are we doing more than 40 cubic yards in the driveway excavation that we're doing here? And the excavation for the retaining wall?
And the house has got no basement. The addition has no basement.
Right.
Right. The addition is a garage slab. So, I mean, well, I don't have that number in front of us, but if we extrapolate the 25 feet from the addition, I'm pretty sure we're off of our property over here for sure, and we're about right here. So I'd have to assume less than 40 yards, but I didn't do that calculation.
But Amy, because we are doing something within 15 feet, we clearly have to get your approval. And but then in order to regulate it, you have to find there is an adverse impact on neighbors and on drainage.
Okay, thank you.
If I could, I would appreciate an opportunity to just respond to some of the incremental comments.
Yeah, that's Mr. Post.
It's Mr. Post. Yes, sorry, the camera's off. Let me get it for you there. Okay. Again, it seems to me that we're making. There were various statements being made by experts that I have not seen any evidence of. So, Mr. Gleason spoke about a modest addition. Okay, this house is going to be more than double its size. So, he's also talked about water flows from 22. There's no gradient I see in any of these materials about what happens from 22. I see nothing in the stormwater management plan that speaks to that. So I guess my question to the commission is, what is your standard? We have supposed experts here who are telling neighbors that our commentary is not as relevant as theirs because we're not experts. And yet the supposed experts are flinging around facts that are unsubstantiated by anything here. So my question is, does the commission feel empowered to approve something by experts representing an applicant who are representing truths that there is no substance justification for? If this is your process, and this is how Mr. Gleason conducts himself, I'm scratching my head. Number two, I would say we are relying on a stormwater management plan that the calculations clearly show will overflow in certain storms. That is the drain that you were just pointing to is intended to overflow in certain storms. The last commission meeting, there was a request from a commissioner to understand, can the street withstand that incremental water flow in those overflow conditions? And no, Mr. Gleason, that water would not currently flow there. It's very clear that there's a permeable surface that currently exists that will be replaced by an impermeable surface to galleys that will overflow into the street in a way that would, I'm not an expert, but I can read a topography map, and that's clearly the case. The commission has no evidence here to confirm that those street drains can handle that incremental water flow. And you have multiple neighbors discussing significant flooding conditions here. So again, I come back to, are we going to rely on loose facts from experts, or should we get hard facts and study whether or not the street drains can actually handle the additional water flow? And then I'd like to just come back to 853, which Mr. Gleason raised. And as I read 853 C and J, it says very clearly no application shall be approved until the commission shall be satisfied that proper provision shall be made to control 1, pollution, siltation, and stream erosion, that's C, and F is preservation of significant trees, vegetation, and natural resources. So the southwestern corner of this new property is a zone that you heard in the last meeting is, I think it was described as a river or something you could be surfed in. I've seen it firsthand. It's true. It will no longer be an impermeable surface. It will be a garden. So effectively, a garden will now wash out into my property. And the standard here by the regulation is a net negative improvement or a net positive improvement. But again, what we're ignoring is the localization of the impact. So the new water surface not addressed by stormwater management will continue to flow at an increased rate to the back of the property. There's nothing about this plan that stops that. Again, just look at the map that's on the screen. It addresses the new surface and addresses the driveway. It does nothing about the back. And there is incremental roof line draining to the back of the property that even Mr. Rocheville has confirmed is the case, that will now drain through a garden and siltate my property. There's no debating that fact. Okay, and then it says preservation of significant trees and vegetation. Clearly, this plan does not preserve significant tree and vegetation. And I don't know how you can conclude that this plan doesn't have negative impact based on the facts I just described, in addition to the loss of privacy and the aesthetic decline of the street from this, candidly, incredibly unusual and unesthetically appealing 2 driveways. So that is absolutely a decline and a negative impact for my property to have a gravel driveway immediately adjacent to my driveway. I mean, it is not the standard of this town, and so I respectfully disagree with many of Mr. Gleason's statements. He clearly has a client he's trying to achieve an objective for, but I think you need the full facts to decide the appropriate outcome here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I think we're ready to close, right?
I'd like Harry, if he can, to respond to the question as to whether or not there's a river going through the back and whether there's an improvement in the back, and those questions, because he's the expert. And whether
I think the only thing we're doing in the back is replacing the shed. In
the only thing we're doing in the back is removing that driveway and replacing it with vegetation, which will, slow down the runoff and decrease the runoff. But again, we don't get to take credit for that in our drainage analysis because we can't take credit for impervious areas to be removed. So we already have a decrease in peak flow rate leaving the property. And again, we're not taking credit for 2,000 square feet of driveway that's being removed in that back of the property and being replaced with vegetation that will infiltrate. That's all I have.
Mr. Rochelle, I would simply say you were involved in the prior, you had stated at the last meeting, or at least your firm was, the work at 26 Great Hill Road. That was approved by this commission with the standards that Mr. Gleason just advocated the commission utilize, and that resulted in $800,000 of litigation payments. So I think we should all just keep that in mind as we consider what the appropriate standard is for the commission to approve this going forward.
Yeah, I think I touched on that at the last meeting. The reason for the lawsuit was work that was done on 26 Great Hill Road when they added 8 feet of fill to the backyard and created the channel on our western property line, their eastern property line, while removing, I think it was 10 to 12 oak trees over 30 inches. So I'm pretty sure we touched on that at the last meeting.
Right, and it conformed to the commission standards, which we're trying to use to prove this one, and yet somehow or another still resulted in $800,000 of litigation. So And I respectfully disagree with your conclusion in that the alternative set of facts was included in my memo from the first meeting, as provided by a engineering expert.
Thank you. All right, I think we're ready to close. Anything else out there? Okay, with that said, I'm looking for a motion to close. Jeff makes a motion. Amy makes a second. All those in favor? Fantastic. The hearing's closed. We're going to debate this or discuss this. Jeremy left the room. Do you know? Look at this again, Fred. We're not going to look at it today.
We'll work on drafting something for the commission's consideration.
No, we have to discuss it first.
Yeah, we can either deliberate on this later this evening, or
we're not gonna do that.
the meeting next week is pretty busy. After that, we'd be looking at November 1st.
I'd probably say November 1st then. Okay, fantastic. Moving on. Next up on the agenda. Is coastal site plan review number 369A, flood stem prevention application number 428A, landfilling and regrading application number 538, Abigail and William Hausberg at 6 Pratt Island. Proposal to regrade the southwestern portion of the property to create a flat area, integrating the property with 8 Pratt Island while preserving the separate lots, and to perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 0.76 plus minus acre subject property is located on the southwest side of Pratt Island, approximately 820 feet south of its intersection with Baywater Drive, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 55 as lot number 115 in the R1 zone. This application is in conjunction with the next application. I want to read that into the record. Both of these are going to be immediately continued to October 25th. So the next application is Coastal Site Plan Review number 155A is an apple. Flood stem prevention application number 159A is an apple. Landfilling and regrading application number 539, 8 Pratt LLC at 8 Pratt Island. Proposal to raise the existing residence and construct a new 3-bedroom single-family dwelling in the same general location. Construction of a new driveway, patio terrace areas, and new pool and spa, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including the regrading of the property and installation of stormwater management. The applicant proposes to integrate the lot with number 6 Pratt Island while preserving the separate lots. The 0.53 plus minus acre subject property is located in the southwest side of Pratt Island, approximately 1,000 feet south of its intersection with Baywater Drive, and is shown Assessor's Map number 55 as lot 116 in the R1 residential zone. This one is also, like I said, it's going to be immediately continued to October 25th, 2022. Anything on those two I'm missing, Fred?
Nope. Like you said, we're just going to continue those to October 25th. I believe that will be in the auditorium of Town Hall, but we will confirm that at 7:30 p.m.
Okay. I might not be at that meeting, just for the record, because like Adam always likes to know, it's my son's birthday. So we shall see. That is the end of the public hearing. And the next item we have on the agenda is the general meeting. Just for the record, Jeremy Ginsburg had to recuse himself from our meeting. He had to go to a architecture review board meeting. He left in the middle of our last discussion, and he may be back, I don't know, in 15 minutes or something like that. I'm not really sure.
I expect that was excused, not recused.
Yes, he was excused, not recused. You are correct. Thank God we have a lawyer in the house.
Just want to be careful about these things.
You are correct. The next item on the agenda is discussion of accessory apartment opt-out. you may or may not know, last night was an RTM meeting where they voted on our resolution, basically to our opinion to opt out of the accessory apartment regulation as per the state. The vote was unanimous on the RTM side, 70-0. Amy Barsanti and myself participated in a planning and zoning housing committee meeting. I think it was the week prior. I think it was Thursday, the week prior, when the planning, zoning, and housing committee got together on this one. Amy, you want to give a quick update on how that meeting went, just so everyone knows, and that aspect?
Sure. I think it was Tuesday, if I'm correct. We had that meeting with them. And it was great, to be able to, they had all the information for the memo with all the reasons that we opted out. We were able to go through in detail those reasons. And then we also made a suggestion that, public health and safety might also want to take a look at that, which then they did take our advice on that. And so there was another committee that did speak with Jeremy and get a firsthand account of what we had vetted out and the rationale that we used. So it always helps, I think, when there's more people in the RTM body that follows the bouncing ball, I call it, and is invested with the details. So I think it was a very good outcome, and I think it was a good process that they ran, and I'm glad they came to the same conclusion that we did.
The conclusion and the next steps in the process is what we care about now is we told them at the committee meeting last week, and it actually was on Thursday because we had a P&Z meeting on Tuesday, but it doesn't really matter.
Yes, sorry.
We told them that Dave Keating, who's our third-party consultant on this aspect, has been working on our regulation. At the RTM meeting last night, that also came up on what we're doing for ADUs. We will, once we get our drafts and whatnot done with our ADU regulation, we will have a public hearing on that. Everyone in town is going to be invited, and Amy Zabatakis, who's now the chairman of the PZ&H, made that comment last night at the meeting to say anyone in the RTM or in the general public would like to be chime in on the town of Darien's accessory dwelling unit regulations to make sure they pay attention and watch the bouncing ball and come to our meetings. Did I miss anything on that, Fred?
No, I think you covered the details, Steve and Amy. Yeah, good vote last night.
Great.
I think 70-0 speaks volumes.
Yep. I think they trust us, and they know that they think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Next item on the agenda, deliberations, possible decisions on the following. The first item on the agenda is coastal site plan review number 29A is an Apple floodstone prevention application number 23A, Daniel and Hilda McLean at 25 Contentment Island Road. Proposal to construct new terrace and patio areas at the rear of the residence, construct a new balcony and accessway to the existing basement, and raise the portion of the roof, and to perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The public hearing closed on September 27th. We do have a draft resolution in hand. If you remember, this is the house that's on Contentment Island Road that's a little bit past Tokenique Beach Club. It's on a shared driveway with another house, which is 27. The site has been under construction. It is duly noted inside the resolution that we have that it was under construction without a permit from the P&Z Commission. It was really excavation of what really was going on. We made the applicant come back multiple times to explain the plan to us. I think at the end of the day, we have a full picture of what they want to do here. And now we're ready to read or review the draft resolution. Questions, comments, typos, Scrivener's errors on this one. I think it was pretty clean. I didn't really find anything. I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that on page 3, number 14, It says the commission acknowledges that approximately 1/3 of the total anticipated 413 cubic yards of materials, or approximately 136 cubic yards, has been excavated to date without a permit from the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's why if you did go out there and saw construction going on, that was the construction that was going on. Other thing that I saw in here, I did not know this, Fred, and maybe I missed it. They had a LOMA already on this one, which is a letter of map revision, which is noted on the page 2 at the bottom, number 7.
Yeah, that's correct. In 2014, FEMA issued a LOMA taking the structure out of the flood zone. If you look at the flood map for this property, it's completely covered by the AE flood zone. The letter of map amendment doesn't change the map itself. It's just a letter from FEMA that, in this case, brought the structure out of the flood zone.
Yeah, okay. That's how they jumped off the page to me. Anybody else have any questions or comments on this one? Okay, with that said or not said, looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Jeff makes a motion, looking for a second. Adam makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0, Fred.
Right.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, coastal site plan review number 244A is an Apple, flood damage prevention application number 276A, land filling and regrading application number 536, Jeffrey Collins and Shira Mitsui at 112 5 Mile River Road, propose to construct an in-ground pool, including associated patio areas on the eastern portion of the site, and perform related development activities within regulated areas, including the regrading of the property, installation of stormwater management system. Again, we have a draft resolution in hand. This is the house that's putting in a pool that's kind of sort of looks, it's on 5 Mile River Road. The front door of the house kind of sort of looks like it's on Davis Lane. It's on the side of the house. It was a pretty clean application. They're going to overlook the river, and the opposite side of the river is the bait shop, in case anybody's taking points of reference. I didn't see anything in this thing, so I'm looking for typos, questions, comments, scrivener's errors in this one at all. The only thing that I really, maybe sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Is Davis Lane a private street, and do we have to note that at all?
It is a private street, and no, there is no requirement to note it in the decision. If you'd like us to note it, we can certainly do that.
If you did, where would you put it? Any place? That's all right. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Up to you.
Yeah, don't worry about it. That's fine. The only place I would put it was be on the page 1, but isn't that part of the notice?
Yeah.
If we were to put it in the resolution, I would recommend that.
It's actually in there.
Is
it? It says property location is on the west side of 5 Middleborough Road at the southwestern corner, formed by its intersection with Davis Lane. On the first page. It's in
right.
there.
Right. That's on the first page. I'm just suggesting that if we were to add it to the resolution, that we add it to the findings that the commission is making, which begin on page 2 with number 1.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yep.
The finding I was going to say, Amy, was just that it's a private street. That's all. Anybody else have anything on this one? Oh, okay. Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Jeff makes a motion. Adam makes a second. All in favor? 5-0. Great. Next item on the agenda, land filling and regrading application number 534, 185 Riverside Street, LLC at 259 Middlesex Road. Proposal to construct a new 6-bedroom single-family dwelling on a now vacant lot, construction of a new driveway, terrace and porch areas, and a pool, and perform related site development activities, including the regrading of the property, installation of stormwater management. The public hearing closed on September 27th, 2022. This is a lot that had a ranch house on it. It was wiped out. It was demolished or razed a couple of years back. Now it's just a vacant lot where they took down some huge trees, and they're going to build a new house next to a small house. We have we have a draft resolution in our hands. Questions, comments, typos on this one?
Just a quick, maybe a nit, but are we being consistent about who the property owner is? We're referring to Arvin Mecco here, and notices have referred to an LLC.
Good call.
Yeah, okay, we'll take a look at that, George. Good call on that one.
Okay. I'll go home.
There you go. Is that just a typo on the property owner, you think, Fred?
You know, we're gonna have to double check this. The LLC is where we were. Let's see, where are we referring to the LLC here?
In the notice, the legal notice.
It may be, I think I saw it somewhere else earlier that Mecco may be the member of the LLC or something of that sort. I don't recall.
Yeah, it could be. It could very well be.
It says on the bottom of page 2, and when you come into the resolution, it says site plan Mecco residence by SLR. Mecco residence on the identifications.
Yeah. You may want to show both the Mecco name and the LLC.
Right, on the site plans that are referenced under condition A, site plan Mecco residence by SLR. So that's just the title of the plans that were put forth by the applicant. But if the name and address of the property owner is an LLC, then you're correct. We do need to change that on the first page of the resolution to reflect that.
Yep.
We will verify that. We will verify specifically what that is and make the change. If it is the LLC, we will change it to the LLC.
So let's table this to next week.
Yep.
Table it, Fred?
Yeah, 185 Riverside Street LLC.
Either we can change it now. Either we can edit it now, or we can table it to next week. It's up to you.
Let's edit it now.
Okay.
Let's edit it now to 185 Riverside Street LLC.
What's the address of that LLC?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. We're gonna have to figure out what that is.
Okay, you can change that. You don't need our approval to get the address of the guys, right? But that's a good catch. Anything else in this one, folks? Good. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution as amended or edited. So George makes the motion, Amy makes the second. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, so the only thing we're really changing is the name and address of the property owner. Great. All right, next. Landfill regrading application number 537, Adrian and Kerry and Merkt at 106 Colony Road Extension. Proposal to regrade the rear of the property to mitigate drainage impacts and construct a retaining wall and a series of landscape stone slab steps and pathway from the lower portion of the existing slope to provide access to the upper east side of the property and form related site development activities. The public hearing closed on September 27, 2022. Again, this is one of our great people in town that want to put a play yard and lacrosse goal and soccer goal in their backyard for their kid. It's a pretty straightforward application. They just were regrading the back of the property to flatten it out and put in some walls. In our packets, we have a draft resolution in hand. Questions, comments, typos on this one? I didn't see anything that jumped off the page. to me. The only thing that I really circle is that there's no rock crushing or similar types of earth materials being requested, and no such activity is authorized or approved or permitted. Is if such activity is desired prior to review and action by the Planning and Zoning Commission, shall be required. So if they're back there and they hit rock and something goes sideways, then they got to come back to the P&Z office. I don't recall them having test drilling out there.
No, there was no test drilling. And I would just direct the commission's attention to findings number 3 and 4 on page 2 under stormwater management, where the commission is waiving the requirement for not waiving the requirement, but just noting that the stormwater management infrastructure, drains and recharger unit in the rear yard of the property is not being required.
Yeah, it wasn't required by Darren. We didn't require it, and I think what we talked about is what's written here is they did submit a second set of plans, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So the plans that we have in file do not show any drainage plan.
That's right.
So would it not be useful to end that paragraph 3 with which was removed from subsequent plans?
So you want to add another clause to the end of paragraph 3?
Yeah, just highlight that it's not in any plans and it's not being done.
I think they do.
It does do it on number 4. Right?
In the next section after A, at the bottom of A, it says, as noted, due to the limited amount of new impervious surface, the commission is not requiring a formal stormwater improvement submitted on the following date, on the following plan. Does that cover what you were looking for, George, or do you want something more specific?
I was more concerned in 3 where it says, although a stormwater management plan was prepared and submitted with the original application. I thought it useful just to say that subsequent plans removed it.
In number 4, see where it says in number 4? Better move that sentence twice. 4 says, although the site plan was submitted for the record, the commission, I thought it said revised site plan.
No, it's repeating what was said in 3.
Didn't they put in a revised site plan, Fred?
They did put in a revised site plan after the close of the public hearing, yes.
Right, which we said they could do.
Yes.
And which
Yeah,
removed,
but
removed any stormwater management.
Yeah, correct. But I don't see an issue adding this line as George is suggesting here to to number 3. We can certainly do that.
Just for clarity, in case a neighbor goes looking.
Yeah.
Got it. Is every entitled? Okay, so the site drainage plans for the Merck residence by Merchie Construction Sheet C001 that does not have, whereas the last revised October 3rd has it.
The plan referenced in condition A, which starts on page 2 and goes into page 3. Site development plan and soil erosion sediment control plan by Keith Simpson dated August 17th, last revised October 3rd. That October 3rd revision takes the stormwater management off the plans.
Okay. Then the site drainage plan on the next one down, where it says sheet C001, does that have the stormwater plan there? Or, okay.
As noted above, the commission is not requiring the formal stormwater improvements submitted on the following plan.
Yep.
Site drainage plan. The site drainage plan was different from the site development plan and soil erosion and sediment control plan submitted by Keith Simpson Associates. So there's two separate plans submitted. The site development plan and soil erosion and sediment control, which was submitted with Keith Simpson's stamp on it. And then there was a separate plan submitted by the engineer, Marchetti Consulting Engineers, which showed the drainage structures on the property. So the commission.
How about if we do this? Where it says last revised October 3rd, 2022, sheet whatever, and then say after that, the revised plan excluded the stormwater management plan or the stormwater stuff, the stuff that was taken off. Because you said it was last revised on October 3rd, but you didn't say what the revision is. That's all. You know what? When it says last revised in those boxes, it tells you what they did.
Right.
On the plan, it says it'll give you a revision date. It'll say what they changed. That's all. So if you just add to the end of that sentence what the revision was, I think we're good. Anything else, anybody? Okay, with that said, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve as amended. Whose turn? Adam makes a second. George Ball makes the second. Adam made the motion. George Ball made the second. All those in favor? 5-0. Fantastic.
That'll really confuse the record.
Is that Jeff Ball or George Riley?
Adam Ball, Jeff Riley, and Amy Ball, and Stephen Balgash, and Adam Barsanti. It's all mixed.
It's a blur. It's really a blur.
Just for the record, Amy Barsanti is still the chairman of the Planning Zoning Housing Committee, according to Seth Morton last night.
I know. Poor Amy Zavatakis.
He said, next up, it's going to be Amy Barsanti explaining this.
There are two Amy's, though, so maybe it's somewhat interchangeable.
Yeah, on the opposite end of the alphabet. One starts with a B, one starts with a Z.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very bookended.
All right. Next item on the agenda. Deliberations only on any public hearing closed October 18th. I don't really think we want to deliberate anything tonight. We got enough stuff to do, and it's already 9:30. We've been working at this for 2 hours.
There would be nothing to deliberate other than 24 Great Hill Road anyway.
Yeah, we'll sit on that one. The next item, chairman's report. Only a couple quick things. I keep calling it the federal complex. The federal Darien Commons apartment complex opened up this weekend. They had their first moved-ins. So if you do drive through there, you can come in on the Edgerton Street side and go out on the Walgreens side. The parking lot's open. The apartment building's open. So we do have our newest 50 units in town that is open. They got their TC of O. And I think I'm told that the affordable housing units were already designated. They were supposed to move in on November 1st. I don't know if they have all 8 people or not. I'll get a follow-up on that. So that's actually great news that we got our newest apartment building in town finally finished. The other item that I want to just talk about, the other one is on here on my list is the Tibbetts building is close. I think they were supposed to open up on October 1st. They're pretty close. I think they're going to be November 1st. But the other one, which I just said, was the federal one. They were supposed to open up October 15th, and they did open up on October 5th. I'll try to get an update of when Tibbetts opens, but they definitely still have some work to do. The only other item that I want to just mention on the chairman's report, I don't know if you guys checked your email tonight or not. I sent around an email of a thing that's called the Planning and Zoning Commission Accomplishments from 2021. It's dated as of December 1st, 2021. Also to that document was something that was done a year prior, which is from January 27th, which is Planning Code Chairman Initiatives and things we're going to do. Most of these items on here are completed and done. The only thing that's ongoing is commissioner training. We still have to talk about that a little bit more. We did have a training class for commissioners last year when a lot of us went to the law class. I know Amy is kind of new to the commission, and Mike Netter is new to the commission. So there is some training opportunities that will come up. They usually come up in January.
Okay.
And then the last item is, if you look on page 2 of 3 where it says first and second quarter of initiatives, accessory dwelling units, we already talked about earlier tonight. That was passed, or opt-out was passed by the RTM last night. But now really the real work starts when we draft our own ADU item. So that was completed. If I can give you guys a homework assignment for, the next 2 weeks or something like that, this is going to be on the agenda, I think November 1st. It's not next week. I think it's 2 weeks. Jeremy's going to put on the agenda with an update of this. If there's any initiative that you want going forward in 2023, let's get it down on paper. If you look at the last page, it said the chairman's initiatives. That's all the stuff that I came up with. We have talked about a couple other items, but if there's anything that's near and dear to you or your constituents or your neighbor or your spouse that you want to put as an initiative, let's get that on paper. And then hopefully we'll put it on the agenda for next year, and then try to knock it out in the next 12 months. Okay?
Send that email because I'm looking at it. I don't see anything.
It was Fred sent an email out earlier today. Then I did a reply all to that one and said it was like 3 sentences, and then I had a PDF attachment. This is the thing I'm staring at. You guys can see that.
Can you resend that, Fred or Steve?
Yeah,
I can send it.
You want to send it, Steve, or you want me to shoot it out?
If you can shoot it out.
It was on the 29 Brush Island email.
Yeah,
it was. It wasn't a fresh email.
Got it. I got it now. Okay, here we go. I see it now.
So it's kind of like a homework assignment. Director's report. Do you have anything to add for Jeremy, Fred?
No, nothing to add.
Okay. Other business? Anything that we need to talk about, Fred, for 2/3 vote?
I got nothing.
Okay. Next upcoming meeting is October 25th, which is my son's birthday, as I said. We have the 2 hearings. We have the one hearing that we're talking about tonight, which is 6 Pratt Island and 8 Pratt Island. I was told that there's a bunch of items and new applications on the agenda for that one.
Yes,
After that,
we have quite a busy meeting next Tuesday. Like I noted, it's scheduled for the auditorium, 122 Delafield Island, 165 Long Neck Point Road, 573 Middlesex. There's a continuation of the hearing on 35 Old Parish Road. Continuation of 29 Brush Island that we heard tonight. And then, as Steve mentioned, the continuation of 6 and 8 Pratt Island. So we got quite a busy night next Tuesday.
okay. Are you going to be there, George Riley? Okay.
Do we have any idea when the schools are coming?
There we go. Yes, I will be.
Thank you.
Yeah, the schools will be coming in November. The second half of November, a couple different nights for the 3 schools. So we'll have more details for you on that going forward.
Yeah, we made the decision to put each school on a different night,
Right.
so we can separate the Holmes kids from the Hindley kids from the Royal kids, or parents or neighbors or whatnot. It'll make it a little bit.
It's looking like at this point it's going to be 2 separate nights, one for Hindley and then another night for the other 2 schools. So I think we're going to try to compress it into 2 nights instead of doing one night for each of the 3 separate schools.
So we think we're going to get them done before Thanksgiving?
That's the goal, is to get it done.
That's great. Because then remember, after Thanksgiving, we're off duty.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can sort of publicize, apart from just us on the commission telling our constituents that emailed comments don't need to be read at the meetings to somewhat expedite them, so we don't get people who email us and then pull up the piece of paper and then read the email in the meeting to prolong it.
We can do that. You can do that as ground rules too before the meetings start. We usually do that. We'll do the ground rules at the beginning, say, hey, just so you know, if you send an email, there's no reason to read
Part
it.
of the public record, you don't need to read it. Everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people do like to just paraphrase what they put in an email, but we'll see. We try to keep it.
But Adam, to your point, to kind of circulate that thought to the PTO chairs, I think would be in advance of the meeting might be a worthwhile thing to say. The best way to get consolidated feedback is, one of these manners,
I mean, they're public. The emails are public record. It's the exact same as speaking at a meeting, but you just don't need to.
I know. But having been on this CDSP before, and particularly when it comes to budget items and capital improvements, they tend to think, there's force in numbers and hearing a lot of people speak. I don't know if that's going to be, in fact, the case, considering, we've already, earmarked the improvements to RTM, but we'll see. But I do think if it's a message you want to get out ahead of time, I think informally getting that message out to the PTO leaders in each one of those respective schools might be worthwhile.
Hey Fred, do you have the any email addresses for either the CDSP leaders or the PTO leaders?
Yeah, we have contact information for them, sure.
Yeah,
so
that might be helpful.
Yeah,
if you can give them a heads up when they're going to be on, and tell them what kind of what Adam alluded to, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I would do it directly from you versus going through the Board of Education and the other stuff, because if the dates are already fixed on the calendar or proposed on our calendar, to get that out in advance is probably going to be a little bit easier.
Yeah, we can do that.
Great, thanks, man. Anything else? And November 1st, we're going to talk about what this initiatives thing that I just talked about a minute ago, accomplishments. Special on November 1st, Fred?
I'm sorry?
Anything special on the November 1st agenda?
We're going to have, deliberations on some of the hearings tonight, some decisions. I don't believe there's going to be any public hearings that evening, but deliberations, decisions, and we'll update you as we move closer to that date.
And we might also have, I don't know what date it is, we might have an executive session on either the 25th or the November 1st to go over some other executive session legal items we had last time. That sort of thing. All right, so that's it. With that said, I will entertain a motion to.
I got a question. Actually, I got two comments. Yeah, sorry. I'll at least be an hour late next week, and I'm out of the country the week of the 31st.
Okay.
Just so you know. So I'll be out. Definitely that meeting.
Sounds good, Jeff.
Going anywhere good?
I'm going away for my 50th birthday.
That's good.
Very good. Very good.
All right.
So
with that said,
without Steve, somebody remind Mike we'll need him.
Yep. If I'm not there
next week,
he's good. Well, four is a quorum, but yes, we'll make sure he knows.
George, you're going to be around or no?
Oh yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah, you'll be there. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. With that said, and takes a motion to adjourn. Jeff makes a motion. Amy makes a second. All's in favor. That's it. Thanks, folks.